Welcome to Six Flags America in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Six Flags opened as Wild World, and then in 1997, I want to say, is when Six Flags became, or when Wild World became Six Flags America. Of course, in the back is basically where you get your tickets and when you park. Six Flags America is divided into several sections, of course, because it's typical Six Flags, but we're going to start with the entrance, of course, and work our way around till we basically end in the Looney Tunes movie town. There's not really a lot of theming except for the Six Flags that they have in the entrance. Also, up ahead is guest relations or guest services, where you basically get all your, you verify your season passes. So now let's get into the park. Okay, so we are now in the front entrance of the park. We just got through, and now we are going to start walking into the park. We're going to start with the Main Street 76, and what's cool is it kind of reminds me of Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom Main Street. It's like the Walt Disney World in Six Flags. It's pretty cool. Of course, I'm recording it like this just to avoid copyright of any music that gets produced in the park. Of course, to our right is Jelly Belly and the Flash Pass headquarters, basically that's where you get your Flash Passes. If you don't know what a Flash Pass is, it's basically like your Fast Lane at Cedar Fair or Quick Queue at the Busch Gardens, basically where you get to skip the lines to get on the rides early, but it costs extra. Up ahead is a nice little fountain. Most Six Flags parks have them, and this one's no exception. It's really nice when you kind of enter. Of course, to our left is Hurricane Harbor, their water park. And let me say, it's a really good water park. Of course, to our left was just kettle corn, basically where you get kettle corn. Big chunks of it, too, may I say. To our right is Dippin' Dots. They got a lot of Dippin' Dots, may I say. It's like King's Dominion. They just have a lot of Dippin' Dots in the parks. We are now going to walk across and kind of take a left and go into the Chesapeake area, which is a major section in the park. To our right is Heritage Food Court, basically where you get your chicken tenders, Philly cheesesteaks, pizzas. It's not bad too. Let me say, my favorite thing is the Philly cheesesteaks when you go there, but you know, it's just your typical Six Flags food. I like how they have the Armatron telling you the time. It doesn't really fit in with the theming, but it's still alright. In front of us is the Flying Carousel, which is basically your wave swinger style ride. And then to our right is one of a couple of movie theaters. This one features EFX 3.0, which is a really good show that features a lot of techno style things to it, and it's really nice. So right here there's one. We're going to take one of two pathways here. Either way, it will get to our same spot where we're wanting to head to. And we're going to go to the one on the right just because it kind of shows more of the rides. Of course, to our right is basically an airbrush t-shirts or just painted t-shirts area. To our left is the ride that kind of splits the two pathways, which is the Cyclone. It basically is a scrambler. And then to our right is which is Shipwreck Falls, basically a boat ride, but it's a weird boat ride is that it gets you incredibly wet, like more wet than usual. Speaking of getting wet, here it comes. Boom. Even innocent bystanders right there can get very soaked. It's unusual because the splash goes everywhere. It's like it projects out everywhere, unlike most boat rides. So that's really cool. Okay, so before we go really deeply into the Chesapeake, we're actually going to go into the Coyote Creek area. Of course, right in front of us is another theater that hosts my favorite show at the park, Pirates vs. Cowboys. It's really nice, and even though it has a lot of special effects, the effects are good effects, and it really works well with the show, and it's actually really fun. Now we're going to head into Coyote Creek. Of course, to greet us is the cool waterfall and fountain that kind of greet us when we enter. To our left is the photo area. It's basically where you get photos if you've already gotten photos with your family and stuff like that. Mainly to the right is just shops and food like candy, turkey legs. There's another food court that will be coming up ahead. Also, there's the stores with merchandise, sunglasses, shirts. You know, it's typical Six Flags. You want to make sure you kind of got buy the stuff as you're going through this area. To our left is Rodeo, which is, well, I'll explain it later as we head back because you'll get a better view of it. We will continue on with, on our left being Game Hall, which is one of few arcades. You'd think there'd be more arcades, but no, there's very few arcades here, and there's one of them. Of course, like I said, there is a food court in this area, and here's one of them. Now, I'm not sure what they sell there because I've never been inside there, but it's just kind of, I bet you it'd kind of be another typical Six Flags like Turkey Lakes or something like that. To our left is Los Coches Locos. It's basically bumper cars. Sorry if I pronounced that, by the way. I'm not really good with that, but it's basically bumper cars. It's a fan favorite. Up ahead is the entrance to Renegade Rapids, which is a very intense 6-person raft ride. Really nice. And up ahead is the first coaster in this video, Mindy Racer. It opened in 1995 as Six Flags America's first and now currently the only inverted coaster at the park. Of course, to our left was the entrance to get there, that pathway to our, which is now to our right. And now we turn around and head out of Coyote Creek, because Coyote Creek is one of few, basically, like, kind of like columns or something like that, that kind of project out of the main area of the park. So now we kind of head back. Of course, the bumper cars are now going. Bumper cars is really the fan favorite here, which is really nice. But other than that, all the rides here just, you know, they're meh. Of course, a lot of people do like that roller coaster, surprisingly to me, because it's just another Vekoma SLC. Cool thing about that Vekoma SLC, though, may I say, is that it has extra rows. Unlike normal Vekoma SLCs, this has, I think, an extra 5. It doesn't really help the ride, but better capacity. Right here's the rodeo. I said I'll talk more about it, and here we go. So basically, rodeo is where you get into these cow or bull style seats that spin you around like a scrambler. Only when you reach the edge, it will kind of eject you out like you're on a bull riding. So it's very fun. Of course, it's usually closed, but when it opens, it's got very long lights because a lot of people like it. What I like about Coyote Creek is they have horseshoe prints and symbols all around the pathways. Kind of makes the theming a little bit better. And for a Six Flags park, this has some nice theming. Of course, we'll leave the Coyote Creek with this nice fountain.
And now we are back in the Chesapeake, and we're going to make a left.
And now we go left
Into the Chesapeake area.
and head in deeper to the Chesapeake Bay area of the park. Of course, it's understanding why it'd be called that. Here is basically a chicken area. Basically, we get a lot of different types of chicken. I forget what it's called, but I think it's crazy chicken or something like that. But basically, you get chicken thighs, chicken drumsticks, chicken wings, chicken breasts, stuff like that, chicken strips, a lot of chicken, let's just say that. Of course, to our right is Shipwreck Falls, their boat ride.
There goes Apocalypse. They're B&M stand-up.
This is basically where there's not really anything to go to. It's just kind of connecting you into the next area, which is still Chesapeake area. It's just that there's more rides over here. And right in front of us is Roar. Of course, Roar now has the famous Snicker banner, which used to be on Wild One. Then they moved over to Roar. I guess Roar was the next wooden roller coaster to have the Six Flags treatment, if you know what I mean. Six Flags theming treatment. Of course, right there is the entrance to Roar, and unlike all the other GCI wooden roller coasters, this one doesn't have the GCI Millennium Flyer trains. This one just has the normal PTC trains, and PTC it means basically Philadelphia Tobacco Company. To arise the high seas, basically a non-inverting ship ride. Really nice.
Now, huge theming
And to our left will kind of won't make any sense of why it's in the Chesapeake area, but it's Six Flags, so we're gonna have to deal with it. This is basically one of the most theming areas of a Six Flags or theming coaster. This is Apocalypse, their B&M stand-up roller coaster. Apocalypse: The Last Stand, to be exact. Of course, over here is Avatar's Grill, Rita's Ice Custard Happiness, and Primo's Pizzeria. Basically, the Avatar's Grill is mainly just where you get burgers and stuff like that. Now back to Apocalypse. Apocalypse opened in 2012 as Six Flags America's 8th roller coaster, and it's basically a B&M stand-up. Now, it used to be at Six Flags Great America as Iron Wolf, which opened in 1990, and now it's basically here. And also, it's not a newer stand-up coaster. It's also B&M's first stand-up coaster, so that's really cool. Of course, right there is the Wild One, which is Six Flags America's oldest roller coaster. Also, there's Bourbon Street Fireball, their newest not roller coaster, excuse me. But anyway, here's the entrance to Apocalypse. Back to Bourbon Street Fireball. It's basically it's a Larson Looper flat ride. It's not a roller coaster, but they are advertising it as a roller coaster. So now we're gonna head out of the Chesapeake Bay area and head into the Wild One. Go under the Wild One and head into Gotham City. Of course, besides Chesapeake, Gotham City is another large area. Of course, right there is Bourbon Street Fireball and Voodoo Drop, which is their drop tower. Right in front of us is the Gotham City Arena, which is basically a character meet and greet. Nothing very special, just get to meet the Looney Tune characters. Of course, if you can see that, there's a nice view of Superman Ride of Steel, the tallest roller coaster in the park, and considered one of the best. But a lot of people, it's these next couple of coasters that a lot of people like. Right here is Gotham City's food court. Has a nice variety of burgers, chicken tenders, got some nice salads. But the one thing that I found delectable here is the lettuce burger. It doesn't sound delectable, but it actually tastes pretty good. Alright, so we're kind of going to wander off the two pathways just to see the Batmobile and Sky Coaster. Sky Coaster is just basically simple. It's at most of Six Flags parks and all around the world. We're now going to go back on the pathway and walk over to the entrance of Joker's Jinx, their Premier Rides launched spaghetti bowl coaster. Of course, the one thing I like about their entrance is the mirrors that they have there, since it is the Joker's Jinx. Of course, you can see me filming as I'm doing all this. This is my favorite mirror here because it makes your head quite bigger. It's a weird mirror too. I like it. I guess that's what makes the Joker's Jinx theming a little bit better, as there's not really any theming during the ride, but there's some nice theming in the entrance and when you're walking through the queue line. So right here is Riddle Me This, which is a weird contraption. You don't see them at a lot of parks, but it's basically a stand-up spinning ride where it'll kind of tilt you up, almost like a Enterprise, but you're standing up, and it doesn't tilt you almost all the way vertical like an Enterprise does. Of course, here is the entrance to their pavilions. Most parks have them, and Six Flags, once again, is no exception. But I do believe it costs extra. I don't think so, but it's not a normal place you can't really go to in the park. You have to like reserve it or something like that, or a special party, and they don't really have those often. Of course, up ahead is Mr. Penguin's Blizzard River, and it's a very weird water ride because you don't really see them. It's basically an 8-person or more, correct me if I'm wrong, and it just spins you around on this water slide, and it's pretty weird because you don't get that wet, but you don't see it at other parks. Of course, here's a nice look at Joker's Jinx, which is a Premier Ride spaghetti bowl coaster. If you're unfamiliar with the spaghetti boat coaster, try looking at the two famous ones, Flight of Fear at Kings Island and Kings Dominion. That's what it basically looks like, but not in a building. There's the entrance to Mr. Penguin's Blizzard River, and there it actually looks like. Doesn't look like a good color scheme for Mr. Penguins, but oh well. It's Six Flags, so what do you expect? Of course, right here is belly fillers, where you basically get popcorn, turkey legs, churros, nothing special. Here's another good look at Joker's Jinx. It got a new painting on its supports to make it look nicer. It no longer looks like it's peeling like it was. Joker's Jinx opened in 1999 as their first and still their only launch coaster in the park. It's a really nice coaster. A lot of people argue with this one, Superman, and Batwing, which we'll get a look at later. To our left, what you just saw was the entrance to Whistletop Park, which is one of two kids sections, and we'll be getting to that after we take a look at Superman and Batwing. Now we're going to take a look at Superman here, which has a nice plaza to it. It kind of reminds me of the two Intimidators at the Cedar Fair Parks, because it kind of has stats about Superman, has Superman, a big S in the plaza, of course, so it's really nice.